morning, everybody, unless of course you're watching this video in the evening. In that case, good evening. You're watching Time Travel TV, and welcome to our special episode on the Battle of Waterloo, and also welcome to Time Travel TV HQ. I haven't introduced you to Time Travel TV HQ yet, but here it is. So we're going to do an episode on the Battle of Waterloo, and I'm going to give you some background information first. So in 1814, Napoleon, who coincidentally is Emperor of France, that name should be vaguely familiar to you, Napoleon. Anyway, he was Emperor of France, and he came back from his invasion of Russia in 1814, and it went very badly. I'm not going to go into too much of French politics right now, but he was very unpopular and was forced to abdicate, and was exiled to the tiny island of Elba, just here, which is next to Italy and France and Corsica. Funny I should mention Corsica because Napoleon was born in Corsica. He's everybody's favourite Corsican, I think you'll find. Anyway, he was put in charge of the island of Corsica in 1814, and he got rather bored. Although he did introduce quite a few reforms in the Isle of Elba, what happened is that he got bored because he's used to being in charge of an empire which is like the size of that big map. By the way, here's the map, but if you can't see the map, I'm very, very sorry. Anyway, he's used to being in charge of like all that, so he now is an emperor of a tiny island. He's a bit bored, so he decides to come back. He comes back to France, and the new French government get rather cross, and they say, "No, Napoleon, you naughty boy, get back where you belong in Elba." But the thing is, most of the people prefer Napoleon to the new system, so they welcome him with open arms in 1815, and he becomes emperor for 100 days. And then what happens was the former allies, who are still allies, but they are allies against France, Britain, Prussia, which is powered modern-day Germany, various other German states, and the Netherlands, they get very cross, and they form an army to go and get Napoleon. Napoleon gets together some of his generals, like Marshal Ney, for example, and goes to get the Allies. And they meet at a well, what happens is that the Allies are encamped near a small Belgium, modern-day Belgium, formerly Dutch town, or village rather, of Waterloo. Napoleon and his friend Marshal Ney decide that they're going to try and split the Prussian army under General Blücher and the British army under Duke of Wellington apart from each other. I say British army under Duke of Wellington. It's predominantly British army, although there were some German and Dutch soldiers there as well. There was quite a few, actually. I think there's 17,000 Dutch there. The total armies, the Prussian army was about 50,000. The British and British plus Allies army was about 68,000. Napoleon's army was 72,000, and what happened is that Blücher of Prussia was defeated in a battle, and then Wellington retreated to the village of Waterloo, where he made his stand against Napoleon. General Blücher said that when he's regrouped his army, he'll come and help General Duke of Wellington, and the scene was set on the 18th of June 1815. And now we're going to do something that we've never done on Time Travel TV before. We're going to reenact the Battle of Waterloo from start to finish with a cast of hundreds. And to get to play with generals, we've got some A-listers. We've got Brad Pitt playing Marshal Ney, and we've got Hugh Grant playing Duke of Wellington. It's going to be absolutely great. I'm just going to check to make sure how everything's going on the old phone. Hello? Everything ready for the battle? What's that? What do you mean all the cast are in isolation? This is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. Well, can't they all stand like 2 metres apart or something? I don't care if they're afraid of getting coronavirus. We need to just promise all the viewers. Okay. Never mind. I suppose you heard all that. No cast. So you know what that means? I'm going to have to reenact the Battle of Waterloo all by myself. I've really picked the perfect position here. I think I'll station troops in Hougoumont farm over there, and Lessehay farm over there, and another farm over there, which I can't remember the name because it's in some French language. Aha! I'll really get Napoleon now. The weather is better now. We can start the battle. Call on the attack. The British are putting forces in Hougoumont farm. We'll attack there, and then we'll move their troops away from the center. Those pesky British, we need to give them the open fire, the cannons, fire artillery. We better advance our troops on the center. That Duke of Wellington, he will be trembling in his Wellington boots, advance on the center, infantry troops. I say, who's that? That's Marshal Ney attacking in the centre. Well, that's no good. I'll get my chaps to form the old British squares and we'll shoot the... Yes, back you go, you silly Marshal Ney. Nay, nay to you, Marshal Ney. Oh, I love my home. Brave troops have captured Le Hayside farm. We shall move our artillery there and then we can fire at the British squares. I say, who's that over there? It's the Prussians, good old General Blucher. Hello, old chap. Give him hell, lads, give him hell. Get him now, he'll see him squirm. I am General Blucher, and I am from Prussia, and I will destroy Napoleon's army. Oh, the battle is not going so well. We better send in the elite guard, the elite Imperial Guard to go and save the day. What's it? Napoleon, that pesky delighted sending his elite guard in. Well, yes, get them. Bash, bash, bish, bosh. There they go. Batter from whence they came. Better ordered the general advance on all fronts. Better ask that silly German man to do the same. What's his face? Blucher. That's him. Anyway. We are back in the studio. And you know what? I think that was better. That was better than all these professional actors doing that. I think that is better. And in case you didn't get that, get what was going on, the Duke of Wellington and his army, including General Blucher and everybody else, they won, coincidentally. Napoleon had to retreat. General Blucher met up with him at Paris. Duke of Wellington met up with him a bit later, joined them a bit later, and he was exiled again and was forced to abdicate. And what happened is that Napoleon said, "Can I have like a nice country house just outside London?" And they said, "Whoa, no. We're going to exile you to the most bubonic hellhole we can think of. How about St. Helena in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean?" And I'm so sorry if somebody from St. Helena's watching this for calling it a bubonic hellhole, but to be honest, as far as Napoleon was concerned, it was, because it was the most tiny weeny little island you can imagine. It still is the most tiny weeny island you can imagine. It was terrible weather. It wasn't like the south of France at all, the Mediterranean, and he was kept under virtual house arrest. Not only that, there was no possible chance of escape, which was why they put him there, because there was 2 Royal Navy ships circling the whole time. And he didn't enjoy it much. He wrote his memoirs, but, well, he was just a shadow of his former self. And on that happy note, after the Battle of Waterloo, where Napoleon Bonaparte became Napoleon Blonaparte, we end. But there's a few things I would like to say just first. First of all, loads of people always say that the Battle of Waterloo was a decisive victory, and that if it wasn't for that battle, that would always speak in French now. That is incorrect. Napoleon, he could have won the Battle of Waterloo, but he couldn't have won the war. If he did win the Battle of Waterloo, we definitely wouldn't all be speaking French now. He definitely would have been beaten eventually. It's just that it was blimmin' convenient that he was beaten then. Strategically, battles such as the Battle of Trafalgar was much more important, in my opinion, So, the strategic importance of Battle of Waterloo is not really what people think. Furthermore, it's important to remember that people often look at it as a clash between the Duke of Wellington and the Napoleon. This is also incorrect, because you have to remember there was a lot of other people there at the time. The Duke of Wellington's army was made up of 17,000 Dutch and 5,000 other Germans, plus there was 50,000 Prussians that came on later in the day. So you have to remember that that there was a lot more people involved than just the Duke of Wellington. If you read some history books, you'd think of the Battle of Waterloo as a massive chess game going on between the Duke of Wellington and his arch-rival, the Duke of Wellington, because the only person there was the Duke of Wellington. There was a lot of... Granted, Duke of Wellington was a blimming important person. I've mentioned his name so many times in the past few minutes. He was really important, but there was a lot of other people there, you have to remember. And with that, I must conclude. If you enjoyed this video, which I sincerely hope you did, you can subscribe and watch more of my videos that I have put on in past or will put on. And cheerio! And I hope you do not get too bored in isolation. Of course, you could be watching this after coronavirus has gone, so never mind. Cheerio!